Welcome to This Week in the Triangle. I'm Stephen Horn, independent journalist, and let's talk about some news right here in North Carolina. So to start off, we have a story from Wake County, because Wake County is a sanctuary jurisdiction. At least they like to be. And they actually rank nationwide number 18 in terms of the number of deportable aliens who they release. So these include the number of detainers, it's asked for by ICE, so that Wake County has refused or declined to um, that's basically ICE asked for a detainer. Wake County has said, no, we're going to decline this detainer. It also includes number of detainers that where Wake County has provided insufficient notice to ICE so that they could not actually pick up that deportable alien before they were released back into their community. So they rank eight. So the Wake County Sheriff's Office ranks 18 nationwide, and that is with 219 illegal aliens, where the detainers, ICE was not able to pick them up. And that is a little over a 2-year period between October 1st, 2022 and February 6th, 2025. This is data that was obtained by the Center for Immigration Studies. And this data also shows that North Carolina is ranked 8th nationwide in terms of illegal aliens that have been, released out into the communities instead of being deported after they were detained by, a sheriff's department like the Wake County Sheriff's Office. So Wake County began operating as a sanctuary jurisdiction in 2018. For a while we had a Republican sheriff here, Donnie Harrison. That the county sort of slowly shifted Democrat as we had more and more people moving in. Mass migration really changed the demographics. And eventually, Harrison was able to stick around. Some of the local offices were able to stick around after, that shift occurred, Wake County becoming a blue county. But eventually in 2018, Gerald Baker ran on a platform of, not cooperating with ICE anymore. He was elected. And so since then, the policy has been from the sheriff's office to not cooperate with ICE. But the North Carolina General Assembly, at the end of last year, while they still had the supermajority, they passed a bill saying that local law enforcement departments have to cooperate with ICE. So basically ending all sanctuary jurisdictions across the state. However, in Mecklenburg County, at least, there has been a big issue because ICE is saying, hey, Mecklenburg County, you're not giving us notice so that we can actually come pick up these deportable aliens before you release them. And the Mecklenburg sheriff, Gary McFadden, he's saying, well, we're technically following the law because we are holding these aliens for an extra 48 hours due to the detainer. And the law doesn't technically say we have to notify you, so we're not going to notify you. We're just going to release them. And so this has apparently resulted in the release of 163 illegal aliens in Mecklenburg County since the law went into effect in December. Now that seems like a pretty high number. I don't know if that's accurate, but that was what was reported. So currently, the North Carolina House Speaker Destin Hall, a Republican, has filed a bill basically to clear that up and say, hey, you don't just have to honor the detainer by holding the aliens for an extra 48 hours. You also have to let ICE know, hey, your 48 hours is starting, so that ICE has a chance to come and pick up these aliens. And the next story we have here is from Lee County, where an illegal alien has been charged with abducting and raping a 14-year-old girl from her middle school. This is a really crazy story. It's insane that stuff like this even happens, but Victor Alfonso Villalba Bustamante, a 41-year-old man, has been charged with statutory rape and kidnapping. So, there's a 14-year-old girl, goes to middle school, and she goes missing. She doesn't come home. And so the Lee County Sheriff's Office investigates, and they find, according to them, Bustamante with this 14-year-old girl in a hotel room in Sanford. So they arrest him. He's charged with 2 counts of statutory rape, abduction of a child, felony conspiracy to commit abduction, second-degree kidnapping, and solicitation of a minor by computer. And so the Lee County Sheriff's Office, investigated his, immigration status as they are required to by law, and found that Bustamante is not in the country legally. And so he's currently being held on a $3 million bond. in Lee County, but he'll also be held on a federal immigration detainer. And so I looked up some records from what I could tell. Based on records in the North Carolina's e-court system, Bustamante appears to have been in the Lee County area for around 2 decades at least. So this guy's been here a while. Um, I I don't even know what motivates someone to do something like this. Um, but obviously an extreme situation. The allegations that he picked up a child from middle school, statutory rape, kidnapping. These are crazy charges. And what's even crazier is that almost the exact same thing happened in Chatham County just about a month ago, where a 50-year-old girl in Siler City um, went missing. And so she was missing for about a week. They eventually got an Amber Alert sent out, and they found her in a hotel room in Ashboro, and 2 illegal aliens were charged in relation to that. So, if I was an illegal alien at this point in America, I'd probably be trying to keep my head down instead of kidnapping and raping children. But what do I know? I'm not an illegal alien. And so for our next story here is in Wake County, where a local swim league has voted against allowing transgenders to compete against the opposite sex. So if you are familiar with Wake County, this story might be a little surprising to you because, as some people call it, Woke County, it is majority Democrat. That's how it votes in the presidential elections. There's a lot of Republicans here, but they're not winning any elections, except apparently in the Tar Heel Swimming Association, where the teams voted 43 to 25 to basically require that transgender identifying athletes compete against their biological sex instead of competing against whatever they decide their gender identity is. And so, this is a little surprising to me based on the local politics. This has become a political issue. I believe that, the swimming associations at the national level have said, "Oh, we'll just let transgenders do whatever they want. If they want to, if a man wants to compete against a woman, as long as he says that he's a woman, then that's fine." One of the most prominent people or spokeswoman about women's sports is Riley Gaines, who was a competitive swimmer, I believe, at the college level. So apparently, I don't, I really have no idea how competitive swimming works. I guess they're racing and stuff. I have no knowledge of that. But apparently, this is a big issue where men, especially, they want to compete against women, and they want sometimes I think has access to women's facilities as well. Um, I guess locker rooms or whatever. But in this local swim league, at least here in Wake County, there's around 90 swim clubs in this league, and they have voted, hey, we're not going to really do that. Swimmers who say they're transgender, they're still welcome to swim, but they have to swim in the category for their biological sex. And our next story, also in Wake County, we have 2 magnet schools that are environmental focused. I didn't even know we had this in Wake County, but these 2 magnet schools in the Wake County public school system have a theme of environmental connections. This sort of uh, global citizen, environmental citizen theme. And so these 2 magnet schools won merit awards at the Magnet School of America's National Conference. This is Millbrook Elementary School in Raleigh and Lincoln Heights Elementary School in Fuquay Varina. So if you hear, uh, like merit Magnet School Merit Awards Program, this is what the program is called. You hear, Magnet School of Excellence Award, Merit Award of Excellence. You probably think, hey, they're assigning this solely based on maybe test scores or some objective measure of excellence or merit, because merit is often used sort of a contrast to DEI. So you either have DEI or you have merit. But in this case, we have awards that are named merit but include DEI elements. Because if you look at the Magnet Schools of America website, you'll see that this award is at least in part given based on an exemplary commitment to desegregation diversity efforts. And if you look at the website, you'll see other reference to this idea of sort of equity, diversity, where where it's not about ensuring that the greatest education for the students of a particular school. It is about pursuing this political and uh, ideological agenda of diversity, equity, and if you looked hard enough, you could probably find some inclusion as well for the DEI trifecta. And our last story here is also related to the Wake County School Board, where at Tuesday's board meeting, the Wake County Board of Education voted 7-2 on party lines to allow schools to apply for grants from an LGBTQ organization called It Gets Better. These grants are intended to uplift and empower LGBTQ plus students. So some parents were able to go and find some pretty crazy things that It Gets Better promotes, but it's basically the LGBTQ agenda. It's telling students, oh, it's okay to be homosexual. You can, are you transgender? Maybe you're transgender. Putting all these ideas into young children's head. And so Republican board member Cheryl Caulfield used her opportunity to speak against the grant, saying, I cannot consent to approving a grant that is putting even more sexual content and gender ideologies in our schools. And, as you can see with this graphic here, this was shared by Libs of TikTok. Someone, unfortunately, our school board here in Wake County has often made it onto the Libs of TikTok page because we have some, I guess some, some of the extreme leftist ideologies that are just openly promoted at the school board level here in Wake County. So if you happen to be tuned in, you can find thisweekinthetriangle.com. You can find this weekly email I send out with these stories. It has all the links, all the images, and whatnot. So you can find me thisweekinthetriangle.com. Thanks for stopping by.